Hello, I'm Julian Whittle from Cumbria Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with Nigel Catterson, the man behind Utropia, a plan to redevelop Derwent Forest, the former Royal Naval Armaments depot at Broughton Moor in West Cumbria. Nigel, your company, Derwent Forest Development Consortium, was selected as the preferred bidder for Derwent Forest by Allerdale and Cumbria County Councils way back in 2008. You've now produced a master plan. Now let's start with housing. The master plan proposes between 1,000 and 2,000 new homes. What sort of homes will they be? How are they going to be constructed? And how can you be confident that the demand is there to build on that sort of scale?
Well, the size and scope of the housing has increased on what we originally conceived, and quite frankly, there is a justification for it. We have had a huge amount of interest coming into us from not only in county but outside of the county in terms of wanting to be part of what we're trying to achieve. The housing itself will be basically, most of the housing will be wood frame construction. Mm-hmm. We want it to be as eco-friendly as it's possible to be.
Yeah.
We expect to be building a factory on site to produce that housing. So
they're modular then, are they? Will they be modular type construction?
Yes, they will be modular panel construction, very quick to erect, extremely energy efficient, passive husk standard, basically. And we expect to be able to produce those for about 20% cheaper than current market price.
That's quite impressive. But to underline the demand issue, I mean, one thing we've found at the Chamber is the forecast for the next 20 years is that Cumbria's working age population is going to shrink quite substantially from about 250,000 now down to 230,000. So we will need, as a county, people to move here from other parts of the country just to fill the jobs we've got. So this could be part of meeting that demand, couldn't it, this project?
Absolutely. I mean, from the research that we have done with Britain's Energy Coast, we estimate that if all the opportunities are realised in West Cumbria, there is a potential investment opportunity of somewhere north of 200 billion in West Cumbria, if all of those opportunities are realised. Now, that's over the next 25 to 30 years. Clearly, there's going to be a huge number of people required to deliver that type of capital investment. So I think that there's a massive opportunity. What we're trying to create, I think, at Derwent Forest is if you like, a Silicon Valley approach of ecological and sustainable building. That will attract people in from other parts of the country, which historically, where these type of communities are created, they've always been very, very successful and always been a magnet for people who think alike. Now,
in terms of house type, then, are we looking for everything from sort of small apartments through to semi-detached, detached, etc.? So it's a full, And what's the time scale for this housing? We know when would you hope construction starts, and how long will it take to deliver the project?
We expect, with the fair wind, all being well, we've got 2 years basically to go through planning and iron all that out. So from probably September 2020, we would expect to build out the site between 10 and 15 years from that date. So that would be 2030, 35.
And are we talking about a new town, or are we talking a series of smaller communities?
Basically, it would be a series of small communities of around between 300 to 500 houses within each community, built around the concept of village green. So what we're trying to do with this is to create a real sense of community, but that community then be linked to other communities. So you can feel an identity with the place. And the driver behind this is to create the best possible place we can for people to live. This is not about profit. We need to make profit for obvious reasons, but this is about excellence. We have to create a model that will inspire other people.
Now, there has been a modest start to development at Derwent Forest already, hasn't there? I think there are 24 self-build plots on the outskirts of Great Broughton were released last year through Riva Homes. What's the uptake been for these?
They haven't been marketed yet. They will be marketed as from the 21st of September.
Right.
There's going to be a marketing event at the Trout in Cockermouth. We've already got a list of at least half a dozen or more people that are wanting them. So the marketing process is underway. I have no doubt at all that they're going to sell very, very quickly. They've got outstanding views of the Northern Fells, and they are substantial plots.
No, I think the plots start at 80,000, don't they? So
yeah, it's 85,000 to around 140,000, and they're fully serviced, so they're plug and go. They've been completely de-risked.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, you mentioned that the Passive House low energy standard. Sustainability underpins the whole Derwent Forest project. Can you expand on the thinking behind that? I mean, is the idea to make it a national exemplar for sustainability?
Exactly that. And I always start from the premise when we talk about sustainability of saying, first and foremost, it has to be financially sustainable, because if it's not financially sustainable, there's no point having the conversation. So everything for me has got to be built around that, and to create a model, a working model of how we can move forward as a society. So we're looking to say, within the site, we want half of it to be development and half of it to be wilderness, showing how the two can work hand in glove together.
Okay, well, let's move from housing to other aspects of the master plan. I mean, it includes a hotel with conference facilities, 100 tree houses and lodges, treetop skywalks, an innovation centre, shops, a demonstration farm, visitor and education centre. Can you expand on these and on the thinking behind them?
Yeah. Well, the hotel, we want that to be an eco hotel, a green hotel, so specifically designed to be that. There isn't anything in the country that's currently like that. I've been to a couple in Australia. They're very, very impressive, and they attract a lot of people. They become a destination in and of themselves. The lodges, particularly the treetop lodges, we're very excited about. We've got an opportunity there. That's already been done in Sweden and proven to be hugely successful there. The skywalks, we are talking to a Danish company at the moment that are very interested in doing that. So the skywalks would be very much for anybody between 8 and 80. So it will be accessible. And clearly we are looking to create a visitor attraction. Now that's still a kind of fluid thing that we are playing with, and that was always going to be at the heart of what we wanted to do, because if we're going to influence people, then we need to create a place that they can come to which is going to affect the way in which they think and do things, and go away thinking, right, I can do things differently.
So I mean, the parallel that springs to my mind is the Eden Project.
Yes.
Is that, yeah, it's
well,
it kind of educational as well as
it is.
entertainment.
Everything that we're doing, we want it to be not overtly educational, but it will educate. So what drives this and what's at the heart of this are the principles and values that we have wrapped around the project, so that they absolutely are rooted. The project is rooted in them, and it will drive it going forward. So that's what makes it very different, because there's no other project that has these kind of embedded principles in it.
Now, the site is a former armaments depot. I think it closed way back in 1992, but it's on the site of a coal mine. Much of the land is contaminated. I think the potential hazards range from an exploded ordnance through to exposed mine shafts and asbestos. A 2010 estimate put the cost of remediation at $3 million. How are you going to fund and tackle that? Because it sounds like a big obstacle.
Yeah. Well, that's clearly our main objective, is to clean the land up and make it safe for public access. As far as the contamination is concerned, actually the site does not fall within contaminated land area of how it's defined. There is certainly no ordinance on it. We know that for sure. Right. The main part of the contaminant is grey asbestos, which can be bagged, and we want to try and deal with that on site. As far as the mines are concerned, all of the mine shafts are capped. and we want to break into those caps because we want to actually extract heat from the ground to heat the houses.
I see, yeah.
So, as far as we're concerned, we are happy that we can deal with that. The money needed to remediate the site will be there. We have investors lined up that are prepared to fund this whole project, which is a very significant amount of money we're talking about, anywhere between 600 and 800 million.
And what sort of transport, road infrastructure improvements would be needed to bring the master plan to fruition?
Well, that is clearly one of the key things that we've got to address with the site, and we have a number of options that we're looking at the moment, potentially, in order to be able to get greater access to the site, because with the amount of additional traffic that we are going to generate, there's no way that the current infrastructure will remotely cope with that. And I think, as has been shown with the Eden project, we have to be very careful how we handle that, because the Eden project did have a new approach road to it, but it also had a dogleg at the end of it, which created all sorts of frustrations for the locals. We want to make sure that the local communities feel that what we're doing is complementing their existing environment.
Okay. Now, it's been 10 years since the consortium was appointed as preferred developer for Derwent Forest.
Actually, I would say it was 2011 we got the site in December.
Right. Oh, well, the announcement must have been then. So that's 3 years. But why has it taken so long to get from there to where we are now?
There have been a huge number of issues that we've had to deal with, not least of those being the mines and minerals issues, which you may or may not be aware of in terms of coming to settlements and then getting to a far greater understanding of what we're dealing with and knowing what that is. Within that time, though, we've not been idle. We've planted 27,000 trees. So we've got the Queen's Diamond Jubilee wood that we planted, which is over 60 acres. And that's Cumbria's Diamond Jubilee wood. That's now in its 5th year. And our plans have been developing and evolving all of that time. So it has been frustrating. I thought we were going to be able to get on with things straight away, but, it's taken time to get to a point of agreement and understanding in terms of bringing things forward.
Fair enough. Now, you've commissioned the design consultancy EcoRes to work with you on Derwent Forest. What exactly is their role?
Their role, basically, is to come up with a master plan, which they have now done, and to engage with other suppliers and developers and consultants to help bring us to a point of realisation of that plan. And that includes bringing on board, the brief was, it had to be viable and it had to be deliverable. And so far, the plan that we've got in front of us now, we know to be viable and deliverable, and we have investors lined up ready to fund that.
Now, tell me about your background, Nigel. Explain why you became involved in this project and outline who else is involved in the consortium.
That's a really long, convoluted story. I could go way back when, but as you know, I had the Body Shop franchise. So I've
in Carlisle,
in Carlisle, and Dumfries, Workington, Kendal, and Lancaster. So I've always been passionate about how we interact with the environment and how we can understand and learn to do things better, because the world we've created around us is not a happy place at the moment, and we can do better than that. And I've seen so many communities that have managed to do that. We can do this on a larger scale and put this far more onto the national agenda. So the thing that's driven me has been very much, I'm more concerned about how we do things.
Yeah.
Because it's the how if we understand how we do things and we get that right, the what we do becomes self-evident. So that underpins everything. And that's what's driven me forward. And that's what's attracted, I think, the people that I now work with to come on board with the project. So my fellow board directors at the moment, as it stands, and the board will be expanding, who've been on this journey with me since 2011, have been Fiona Hammond. She was the legal director for the NDA in the past. David Schofield. He's the creative director for the Liseberg theme park in Gothenburg.
Right.
He's got his own design studio in Blackburn. And also a guy called John Lofty, who worked with Fiona and was responsible for the supply chain for T5. So I've got some pretty credible people that I'm working with.
Okay. Now, what happens now you've got the master plan? What's the next step?
The next step now is we are going to move forward with that master plan. We're going to need to do all of the ecological surveys in order to prepare and to put in for outline planning permission. So the intention is, from a time frame point of view, to get outline planning permission in by September of 2019.
Right, okay. Now, where can people see the master plan or find out more about the project?
We intend to have a website up within the next couple of weeks or so, which will be interactive. The important thing with this project is this isn't about me or the group of us. This is about everybody feeling that they've got a sense of connection and ownership of this. The eventual plan is for 60% or more of the shares of the Development Consortium to go into a fund that will be managed by Cumbria Community Foundation.
Right.
So the ownership of the site will rest, the majority ownership of the site will rest with the community. And for me, that's always been very important. So this is a legacy project, and it's about making sure that we take care of the future and at least give future generations the opportunity to benefit from the work we're doing.
That's great. Thanks very much for your time, Nigel.
Pleasure. Sorry about the dog.